Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Proud Steelworker. Today, we have an opportunity to talk to Stefan. It's spelled like Steven. It's pronounced Stefan. Everybody get it right. I got it wrong in the beginning, and now I'm getting it right. So get on board with the Stefan trade. Stefan, thanks so much for being with us today. Tell us a little bit about you. Where are you at? What are you doing? How'd you end up with Skillwork? Tell us your story.
I don't think we got enough time for that. Right now, I'm currently on assignment in Monon, Indiana. I'm a mechanic over there. They're a sawmill. We make wood floors for semi-trailers. And right now, I'm actually in Mexico, Indiana, which is where I've been like your typical mechanic. I grew up wrenching. You can see I got dirt bikes back in the background. I've been riding dirt bikes since I was about 5 years old. Then I started getting into RC cars at a little older age. I think about 10. And then throughout the years, 10, 11, 12, started even working on RC cars. And then when I was 15, my father took a job that was less pay, longer hours and everything. So in order for us to get to the motocross track, I had to work on the bike. So when I was 15, started wrenching on my own bikes, rebuilding top ends, getting them ready, whatnot. 17, I got to a gas and diesel trade tech school while I was in high school, did that for a little bit. Did a little stint in the Marines back in 2009. I was in the Marines for a couple of years and I got discharged with bad knees. Got out of that, got back to work, didn't really know what I was going to do. 22, 23-year-old kid, just fresh out of the Marines, not really know what I'm going to do. I started working at some factories and then I naturally just started gravitating towards fixing stuff. I actually landed a job at a popcorn factory called Pop Weaver, actually here in Indiana. And it was a production job, but it was more maintenance based. We did all the setups. We did a lot of troubleshooting, fixed the machines a lot of the time. So it was a maintenance production role. And that's where I really got into working on the machines. And then from there, I got 2 degrees, got a associates in engineering and then also in business management. And then from there, I just started working. Got a job at Tyson, and then that was my first official maintenance job. And then I got offered a job down in Louisville, Kentucky back in 2018. And then after that, it's just been, I was in Kentucky for about 5 years, Detroit for 2 years. I went back down to Kentucky for another 2 years, and now I'm up here in Indiana again. So traveling around, working on stuff and trying to live. So, nothing too exciting.
I love it. So first things first, Simplify. I'm also a former Marine, so I love it. Thanks so much for your service. It was a good time. This is where the great haircuts come from. In case you guys are wondering, all great haircuts come from the Marine Corps. So it's fine. For those of you watching, take note, shave it down, really get on our level with us. So really cool story, right? So it's interesting. It's not really a family business for you guys, but it started a family for you, moved into where you are, and then where you want to go long term. But you started at a place which the industry is seeing this as a trend. And I'm curious to know if you've seen it more. So you started at a place on a production role and I think you said Pop Weaver at the popcorn place, but at a production role, but they're calling these production roles now more line mechanics or line operator line. Like you own a line as a mechanic, an operator, you're doing changeovers. So it's no longer just the push button operators that we're used to seeing. You now need to have some mechanical aptitude and some mechanical proficiency to be in those roles. And I think it's how they're phasing mechanics into that and electromechs into the actual maintenance side of things. So are you seeing that as a trend everywhere you go? Or was that just a one-off when you were at Pop Weavers?
I've seen it in some places. It's in my experience, I've spent a lot of time around cities. So I was in Louisville, Kentucky for a total of 6 years, out in Eastern Kentucky for a little bit. Then I was in Detroit. So I was in the bigger cities. And Pop Weaver, that's out in the middle of nowhere. It's in Van Buren, Indiana. It's, I think, 45 minutes south of Fort Wayne, an hour 15 north of Indy. So it's in the middle of nowhere. And that's what I'm running into at the place I'm at now over in Monon, Indiana. It's in the middle of nowhere. So it's hard in these big cities, you open up a job post and you might get 4 or 5,000 applicants in the first week. Where in some of these places, that's just not the case. You're lucky to get 1 or 2 people in the door. So when that comes, you have to allocate extra responsibilities to other workers. And of course, there's some administrative delegation on that as far as pay and responsibilities and what people are qualified to do and training and stuff like that. But It really depends on size of the plants, the volume that they're pushing out, the workforce that they have available, and the skill sets available. Obviously, you closer to the city, you're going to have a lot more workers with the potentially have the experience in the background versus being out in the middle of nowhere. So I think it's just relative to wherever you're at.
Yeah, that's fair. The more rural you get, definitely the more you're going to look for somebody who can do everything, right? Because you don't have the bodies to fill the holes. So you need to find a Swiss Army knife somewhere. So that makes a lot of sense. You talked about it in your definition and your explanation there, like the skills you need to allocate and the skills you'll need in the facilities. We're in the middle of a mini series right now, just talking about the skills of maintenance. And there've been a lot of soft skills. There's been some hard skills, but I'd be curious to know, in your opinion, what do you think are the three most important skills to have as a maintainer in industrial maintenance space, or really in any space? Because I think they're pretty fluid. I think the skills will be fluid, but what do you think those top three, maybe four skills are that you're seeing that everybody should have?
Everyone should have. I would say first and foremost, the ability to follow, take direction, take orders, take detailed specific orders. I would say that, probably first. Second would probably be the willingness to, and then third, show up, just be there. I can't tell you how many times we put the team in a bad situation because we've got people that just keep calling off. If you want to work 3-4 days a week, that's whatever, you're making less money, but that's not conducive to the rest of the team, because that responsibility, that extra weight that has to be carried goes on to somebody else. So and this is what I tell my son, I've got a 5-year-old son. If you're coachable and teachable, you will learn anything in this world. If you're headstrong and people don't like you, because that's the first thing. If someone's going to teach you something, they've got to like you. I'm not going to give you the tricks of the trade and the secrets and the secret stuff that you got to do to get stuff running. I'm not going to do that if I don't like you. And that goes from top to bottom. You got to be a good teammate. You got to be somebody that I've got to be around. I want to be around for 40 to 60 hours a week, because as in the workforce, we're with our fellow employees more than we are our families most of the time. The ability to follow. I've been in maintenance now for 10 years, and still to this day, I've got no problem holding a flashlight. I've got no problem running and getting a bearing or getting some chains or grabbing this while somebody with more experience than me is still in the machine working on it. So just that team member, it don't matter where you go. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're trying to build wood flooring, if you're trying to take a position on the battlefield, or if you're trying to get a ball across the line, first and foremost, you got to be a good teammate.
It's fascinating to me, all three of your skills, and I love it because I think it's the truth. All three of your skills are soft skills. These are all skills that people develop over time, but it's crucial, and I'm going to ask you how, but I think it's crucial to know that ultimately any technical skill that anybody has can be taught to someone else. I believe this. I believe that any technical skill can be taught and trained to anybody who wants to apply themselves and takes into account those three things you talked about, right? Are you personable? Can you follow directions? And are you going to be there? Those are the three things. But your technical level, I can coach anybody to do anything. Now, there are people who are going to always be superior in their, like in athletics or in their technical or in their mechanical aptitude. Those things will always, but I could coach you to do everything. Just your level might be different than the top performer, but I'm curious to know, and this is where I go, is how do people learn those skills, right? How do you learn to be personal? How do you learn to be a rule and a direction follower? And what is it in people that drives them to show up versus not, right? Because we all have those days where we wake up and go, I don't want to go. Let's call it space. We all have those days where we wake up and go, no, I'm not doing it. But then we get up and we go do it anyway. So what do you think how do you learn those three skills that you described?
I can only speak on my experience, like from talking to other people. And the whole point of this life that we're in is to extend our family, build a home, and enjoy it. So it don't matter how much money you're making. It don't matter what you do on a day-to-day basis. If you're not working towards at least one of those goals, you're directionless. You've got nothing to lose. In my experience, these are the people that fly off the handles. Before I had a son, before I had responsibilities, I've walked out on a couple of jobs. I don't need this job. I had that bad temperament. So I'm 34 now. I had to go through a lot of learning. I had to hit rock bottom. Had to rebuild a couple times. So it's taken me a little while to learn some of these things. But from all the people that I've talked to, and like I said, from my experiences, if your life outside of work isn't improving, then me personally, I'm going to keep investing in that job. If I have to sacrifice something, whether it's sacrificing sleep or if it's sacrificing time with my boy, if it's sacrificing my health, if I'm losing sleep and I can't get to the gym, I can't work out, I'm gaining weight, that's not conducive to me in the long run, So if I can continue to improve myself, continue to improve my life while enjoying being at work and working with the team, because like I said, it don't matter what you're doing. I've worked at Tyson. I've been working on augers and I've had hog skulls fall on me, been covered in blood. I've been up to my knees in oil. We had to do a flush on a hot oil system today and I was covered in oil today. So the job doesn't really matter as long as you're with a good team. And like I said, if your life outside of work is moving in the right direction, to me personally, I think that's what makes it.
It's interesting. We had a guest on maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and a lot of what you're saying is resonating with what they said their key takeaway was in life. And I think, and I'm going to tie this in and you tell me if I'm way off the mark, but their response was know your why. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? Right. So the why drives those 3 skills you talked about. Like, why am I being personable? Why do I continue to follow directions to do? And why do I show up every day? And I think you said it really well. If you don't know your why, you're lost. And if you're lost, you have no direction. And so we talk about the why. And as you find your why for you, you said 5 years ago, I'm quitting a job that makes me mad. Now you're like, my why is my son and my family and my home. And you know what? I'll probably just put this anger away for a second because I actually like providing for those people and my responsibilities. What do you think, apart from your son and your family, I think those are crucial. How do people grab a why or gravitate to a why? And in your experience before those things, what was your why?
When I was younger, it was the almighty dollar. When I was younger, you're 22, 23 to 28, 30 years old. It's all about money. I was the first person. I'd volunteered for every overtime. I think in the last 10 years, I think I've been to 3 family Christmases, 1 or 2 Thanksgivings, and I think maybe two New Year's in the last 10 years. Those are the holidays that I've participated in the last 10 years. Because, this is triple time. That's double time. I can stack this check this week. So the money drives a lot of kids, but it's once you get older, and this varies from person to person, whether it's 25, 35, 45, that clicks in your head where you're like, oh man, like this time's flying by. It happened a lot for me with my son. I blinked one day and he was 5 years old. And it's, oh my God, I can't even recall where the last 5 years. So when I was younger, it was definitely the dollar. And when you're younger, no kids, not really worried about staying around with my family. I can travel or whatever. I sacrificed a lot, lost a lot of time with my friends and family. Right. And that's what was driving me. There was nothing with personal growth. There was nothing with long-term investments. There was nothing with me bettering myself or my life or as a person in a whole. It was just all about the money and what I can buy next week and what I can buy next month. So yeah, I went through a pretty big growing up period in the last 5 years. So that's just, like I said, that's just me personally though.
I've found that a lot of people who are struggling finding their why, Stefan, are dealing with this huge comparison mindset too, right? They're comparing themselves to somebody who they want to be or somebody who they're trying to be or somebody's best case scenario on some social media platform. And I always tell people, you should probably stop looking over the fence and trying to figure out where your life is going and start just taking care of your life. So I as a younger kid coming out of the Marine Corps myself, I got out of the Marine Corps when I was 20. I did that same thing. I looked around and went, okay, look at all these people who I felt were 5 years ahead of me in life because I just spent 5 years in the Marine Corps doing Marine Corps stuff, which I loved, but it didn't really move my professional life forward at the time. Yeah. It has now because GI Bill and all these great things that we get to take advantage of, but you don't feel that way when you come out, especially it's very abrupt. I found myself falling into the I'm 5 years behind motor and chasing something. But what I was chasing is I'm never going to catch because it's a dream that's not even really a dream of mine. It's just I wanted people at that point to look at me and go, look what you've achieved. I didn't actually care what I had achieved because I didn't have anything to achieve for. So what you're saying, Stefan, really resonates with that younger mindset of kids who I think see this get rich quick scheme. And it's not always a scheme. It happens, but they forget. And this is in the trades, you start here, but there's a catalyst about 8 years into your career where you go from making this much to this much, doing the same amount of work. You just got to get to this point. And people want to get there immediately, but this is experience in life. So I think that it's important to understand that you'll probably do better for yourself and your family attending Christmas and Thanksgiving you would have done for yourself when you were skipping Thanksgiving and Christmas with your family
100%.
over the years, in my
100%.
So
Yeah, and that I think was part of the trying to play catch up. If I work this holiday as triple time, I get a bigger paycheck. I'm closer to buying this, or I'm closer to paying that off. And yeah, I agree with you. That time that I miss with my family and friends those holidays, yeah, you're never going to get it back. But I think the thing that I see a lot, because with me traveling around doing these new contracts, I also see a lot of younger mechanics. I'm working with a 25-year-old, and he's 3 years into his first maintenance job. And a lot of these younger guys, they need a lot of they either need a lot of gratification or quick gratification. There gets to a point where it's after 3 months, I get this, 6 months, this, 9 months, this, a year, this. Then you have 2 or 3 years where you're not getting a pay raise. You're not really learning any new skills. You're settled into your job. You're a go-to guy. And that's when people start calling off or falling behind, or just their quality of work goes down. So a lot of our society and our culture in general has to do with that instant gratification. Guys, they can't sign up for the long haul anymore. And I've been one of those guys. 6 to 9 months and I'm out.
Yeah. Once the accolades end, you go, what am I doing here? Like I can go across the street and somebody will pat me on the back every time I do a thing. You're constantly chasing something. It's crazy that you're right. People give up on this flat spot because they're chasing something that is ultimately just on the other side of them waiting it out, right? It's never going to get there if you continue to change direction, but just get over that hump. Stefan, this is my favorite part of the show because we're done with the questions and now I get to make you talk for a while instead of me talk. But if you could say one thing to the industry as a whole, right? Every electromech, every mechanic, every electrician, everybody in the industrial experience as a whole, imagine they're all listening to this show. What's the one thing you would say to them that you feel would be the catalyst to really drive respect back to the trade?
We need to go back to being good men again. And when I say good men, I mean across the board. I'm not talking about just at work. I'm talking about in our home lives, how we treat others, how we treat our friends, how we treat our families, a lot of things. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but you know what? We've got a guy who he just can't show up to work. Son, you can't wake up to an alarm clock. That's the hardest part of your day. You just can't get out of bed. And they won't do anything the night before to help set them up for success. Get to bed earlier, quit drinking caffeine and stuff. Like when I go into a new place, I swear I'm the only person that says good morning, because after about 2 or 3 weeks, everyone else, oh, hey, good morning. Oh, hey, good morning. I think as a society in a whole, I think what we consider men, I think is declining. It's going backwards. We're shaking less hands. We're making a lot less eye contact. And a lot with that comes with integrity, honesty, doing the right thing. And this doesn't just translate in the workplace. This translates everywhere. Take care of yourself. Get in the gym, eat healthy, take care of your vehicle, the vehicle that gets you to their job. Take care of your vehicle, get the oil change, clean it up. Like Jordan Peterson said, make your bed, get your house in order. Well, you guys want to go, and I got friends who are talking about, oh, I want to buy 40 acres. I'm saving up money to buy 40 acres. Bro, you can't mow your backyard. That's 300 square feet. You want to save up money for an $80,000 truck, but you can't take care of the one that was given to you. You want to have a $400,000 house, but you can't make your bed anymore. So if I was to say something to anybody, I would just tell the men to keep being men, lead by example, and be the man that you need to be in your life. We're a lot like me specifically. We're getting that age now where we are the men. We don't got no more men to look up. We're getting that age now where now we need to start setting the example. And over the last 10, 15, 20 years, that example has kind of started to decline. I think we need to bring it back up. And I think a lot of that integrity and that honesty and just good, honest, working hard starts at your house and it goes into the workplace.
Yeah, I think that's so important to just remember what we're supposed to be. And not what people tell us to be, what we are supposed to be, how we are supposed to be, because you said it, be good men. And I'm going to stretch the message because I think it's really cool that we're seeing a lot of women enter the trade. So I'm going to say it, be a good person. And I'm not saying at work, no, do the right thing. I tell my son this too. I'm saying, hey, be a good man. And I say it to my daughter, be a good woman. Like, be a good woman and a good person in every interaction you have. You hit it on the head. The ability for people to respect the trades is reflective of people to be able to respect the tradesmen and the tradeswomen who are doing the job. If you want to drive respect back to it, be respectable. And that's huge. So, man, what a powerful way to end this. What a great message. Stefan, I'm super stoked you were on the show today. A huge thank you to you, to everybody out there listening. Please leave a comment, reach out to us, ask us any of your questions. I can send any questions to Stefan. We'll be able to track those on YouTube or Spotify or wherever it is you're listening, and we'll answer those to the best of our ability. If you want to be on the show and speak to what he had to say or speak to your own experience, please do. Stefan, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you. This was invigorating for me. Really stoked seeing you build your house out. I see you back there framing out, building out. I love it. Thank you to everybody, and thanks, Stefan.